welcome to the work session. Tonight we're blessed to have Dr. Paul Kaiser, the superintendent of Westfield, Washington Schools. He has been there for 3 years. He retired as superintendent at Beech Grove City Schools. And he was a teacher at Kokomo, assistant principal at Eastern High School, principal at Decatur Central High School, assistant superintendent at Noblesville. He got his bachelor's degree, master's at Ball State, his doctorate at Indiana State, and he was my professor for quite a few years at Indiana State. And I pulled out some of his references because, as you know, our treasurers have went and found other jobs. So I'm now building the budget tomorrow and doing a lot of work with the treasury part of the school system. So it's neat to keep all that information back to when I had class about 6 or 7 years ago. He was here early about 11 o'clock, and we went out to lunch, and he's been with our principal since 2 o'clock to a little after 4, talking about things we're wanting to work on next school year. This session here is more with the strategic planning. As you know, we have kind of a template of a strategic plan, but one of the assignments he gave to the principals is to come up with 3 or 4 people in their school corporation that can help set on a strategic plan to build a community-wide strategic plan here for the district where we get buy-in from our community. So, Dr. Kaiser, it's just thank you for coming. And when he left today with the principals, they already had questions, and he said he would come back. And right now, his services are great because it cost us $38. So, and that's very nice of him and his board at Westfield for allowing him to spend a day here, and he said he would easily come back and help us with a few other things we have planned. So,
well, I like to do activities, and this is not a place where you're just going to be able to sit all night. But I'll tell you a little bit about me. But I'm probably the best consultant you can ever have. I live in Plainfield, so I got a 50-minute drive to Plainfield, and so I'm 50 miles away. And I don't charge anything because I told my students, I'll come work with your school district at any time at no cost. And I have a lot of beliefs because I'm old and I've been around, starting my 45th year. But I really believe a couple things. And I think this applies to school boards too. I really believe our role as educators, dear educators, is that we've got to make a difference in the lives of kids and adults for generations. Just think about that. I mean, your decisions as school board, you're making the difference in the lives of kids and adults for generations. And there's a gentleman, you can Google the name Dick Atha, A-T-H-A, and a longtime school administrator in Benton County. You might know where Benton County is, up in God's country. Benton Central License, the only school in the county, and I think they have a couple stoplights now, but Dick grew up in Benton County, played basketball at Indiana State, back around when Johnny Wooden, I'm not sure if Wooden was his coach, but he was an All-American there and played for the New York Knicks, and then played for the Fort Wayne Pistons. And they were owned by a guy named Zeller who took him to Detroit. And he decided, because his family, he says he had 8 kids, good Catholic family, but he decided to go back home and teach at, it's Benton Central back then, they had 5 small high schools, and you know how a lot of communities are, but he decided that, he was going to take that $5,000 teaching, because that paid more than playing professional basketball. So I tell you that story. His son, John Atha, is my assistant principal, and dear friend, one of the greatest educators. And a lot of stuff I will share with your principals if they invite me back is stuff that I really believe in. But Dick had a philosophy, and I heard John talk all the time, that everybody needs a coach, and everybody needs to be coaching. And that's kind of why I'm here. I hope I can give you some insight on, how you might improve as a school board, as an individual, because I'm here today because my college basketball coach at Ball State, Al Brown, pulled me aside and said, he and Jimmy Hahn, who coached Sean Kent in high school, we played at Ball State together. He goes, you guys are leaders, need to go be administrators. I went right down to the Bursaw's office, got everything to be all the way through the PhD program. And Al Brown is the one that was my not only my coach, but my mentor. And I'd run through a brick wall for that guy. When I got my PhD at Indiana State, he was the 3rd person I called. he just got inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame last spring, and I got to sit at the table with some of his former players, and that we all need coaches, and I truly believe that from that standpoint. So, a little bit about me. I'm going to stand up and walk a little bit. I'm 6'6" and I'm overweight, but my knees aren't great anymore. But I grew up in the inner city of Indianapolis. My dad was a policeman. My mother's secretary, very humble. But I spent a lot of time in Lagodi. So if you go to Lagodi, past the nice restaurant there on the right where the lake is, I think it's about 600. You take a right. There's a farm down there that has this beautiful windmill and all these flowers, and there's a pond up there. Well, that was my grandparents' farm. My grandparents are from Lagodi, and my mom and her 8 siblings are from there, so I spent a lot of time there. She ended up going to Indianapolis and graduated from Tech and meeting my dad, but grandparents always had my grandfather built our house at 34th and Sherman, and he was missing fingers because he had an old sawmill next to the farmhouse, but the farmhouse is still there. So I've got roots there. And then I grew up in Delphi, Indiana, a lot, fishing on the Tippecanoe River because I love to fish. In fact, I'll show you my pictures of all the fish I caught. And I live on a little lake in Plainfield. But so I grew up in the inner city, but I spent a lot of time out in the country. I don't hunt necessarily, but I do have a single barrel shotgun. That was my grandmother's. But I'm kind of one of those guys. I've been all over the state doing different things. I haven't been fired yet. And if my board, I already told them, if you want to fire me, let me know, and I'll just, because I retired once and I came back. But so I grew up in Indianapolis, was a decent basketball player, went to Ball State, and I learned really right off the bat that I wasn't as good as I thought. I scored 1,000 points in high school. I think I scored 15 in college because I realized I wasn't as good as I thought. And luckily I was a good student. I was on an academic team. But I realized the very first semester on campus, I was going to be a CPA because I love accounting and numbers. That's why I teach business at Indiana State. But I just had the love of learning and coaching, and I became an accounting teacher, and I coached 6 years. 3 years at Kokomo High School, well, Kokomo and Hayworth when they were 2 schools. Very urban school setting, coached basketball, baseball. I left there because I wanted to be a head basketball coach. I went to beautiful Monrovia, 400 kids in a high school. My cousin Jim Kaiser was head football coach, and he's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not. Jim left there, went to Avon, and Jim still lives behind the Monrovia football stadium, and he married a McCracken. You know the McCracken name. He's married to the great-great-granddaughter of Branch McCracken. And what's funny is when I was head basketball coach, Bill McCracken was still alive, his brother. And he'd come up to me all the games and give me pointers on how I could coach better. Of course, I was always respectful and listened, but I spent a year there, then I went to Eastern High School, again, 400 kids in high school, coached basketball, and then I became assistant principal. Then I went to Decatur Central, good urban school setting, a lot of farmland in Decatur Central back when I was there, and just a great culture of community. Then I went to Noblesville to be assistant superintendent, in charge of the budget. Then I went back to Monrovia to be superintendent, and I lived there for 12 years with my 2 daughters, 2 of my 3 daughters, and loved living in Monrovia. I mean, I love that small community, love it today.
My wife's from Monrovia.
Okay, what was her maiden name?
Beth.
Oh, okay.
They live at the end of Bunker Hill.
Bunker Hill.
About 39.
Yeah.
They live up, she'll shoot me for not remembering the name of it.
Bunker and go right?
Go left up a dead end.
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
yeah, back in there.
Yeah.
You know, the back part of that neighborhood is Martinsville Schools. The front part of the neighborhood was Monrovia. If you go up there and you go on McCracken and Bunker Hill, you go right. Yeah. The very last houses actually go to Martinsville. Little trivia. But no, I spent 12 years there, taught driver's ed. Was really happy, and then Dr. Boyd from Indiana State says, you need to go apply at Beech Grove. I played summer baseball there. I applied. Beech Grove has 75% poverty rate, 35% transient population rate, and we were losing kids. Now, I went to Cathedral, so I understand recruiting. I hope the ISHA is not listening to this. I'm just kidding. But we recruited like crazy. And right now, Beech Grove, a third of their population live outside the district. We marketed, we did a lot of things. I've talked to Kevin about some of those things. So I spent 13 years as superintendent, won 3 referendums there. I thought at age 64, it's probably time to retire. I did, and 3 months later, I'm the superintendent at Westfield, where I lived for 12 years with my girls when they were small, and to say I've been at different schools, you can't say, well, he's at a big school. Well, I am. My heart's in, is that mid-size home with just great environment that we had at Beech Grove. My best friend Laura Hammock took over as the superintendent there, so I've been all over the state, and I've done numerous strategic plans. One at Westfield, we won our referendum. I was really disappointed we only got 68% of the vote at Westfield. We had 70, we got 63, 70, and then COVID, we actually got 65, which was pretty good during that time. But I know a lot about referendums. I know a lot about strategic planning. But like I said, I tell people I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I've been around a long time, and I'll stop there. And I want to ask you guys a question. Can you guys tell me a hero in your life? Mine's my dad, my mom, some of my coaches. You have a hero?
My grandfather,
Why?
we grew up farmer, and I just followed him around, learned everything he knew, and
Yeah.
he was on the city council, or the county council
Yeah.
here in town.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I get my civic mindedness from
Yeah.
him, and that'd be my hero.
I love my grandpa down in Lagodi. He had a farm, and more importantly, he had 2 farm ponds with a lot of fish.
Yeah, I could just walk to his house, so.
Yeah.
So I was a little closer than you were.
Yeah, it was really funny. I stopped in there 3 years ago. The old barn is still there, and I thought that barn was really big. and they have chickens and pigs there now, the family that owns it. What's funny is people that own it, my director of technology at Beech Grove went to Lagodi and knows that family, but the house is still there. Anybody else? Your heroes.
My grandfather, Mr. Schmidt.
Okay.
My grandfather just, they had a farm. I lived in town, he lived out in the country, had a big farm.
Yeah.
He's got there a lot. He taught me a lot of things about pigs and outdoors and all that.
Right.
Mr. Smitsky was my history teacher.
Okay. Why was he so special?
Well, he was a little bit of a rebel rouser in high school. Occasionally in trouble, never my fault.
It's great. I was a 6th grade Hall-State champ at St. Andrews Grade School.
I was the youngest of 7, and my older brothers had gone through, so
Yeah.
I automatically started at the bottom. But he just spent a lot of time helping me out, working with me,
Yeah.
trying to explain why some of the things I did,
Yeah.
great choices.
And my basketball coach pulled me aside one time and said, "You're going to get a full ride to college, but your grades suck." And he told me that you got to stop drinking the East Side wine. Now, I didn't really drink much, but he knew enough then, and I have not drank since that meeting, sophomore in high school, because they meant that much to me. He really made that impact. Anybody else want to share?
I think my mother, my father passed away when I was 16, so she was left with raising 2 kids and being self-employed and trying to run a business and
Yeah.
raise 2 kids, and you don't realize till you're an adult how big of a job that is.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody else? You can't sit and not participate.
Might be yours, same thing, my dad and several coaches.
Yeah.
Core values, loyalty, honesty.
We can talk a little bit about core values too.
My parents and Karen Goodwine.
And talk to us about Karen.
Karen was a teacher,
Yeah.
junior high teacher, junior high coach, and she just believed in all of us.
Yeah.
She saw the best in all of us.
Yeah.
Whether we had it or not, she saw it
Makes a
and
difference, doesn't it?
instilled it. Mhm.
Yeah. Anybody else? I always allow people to pass, but
I would like to correct you since we have Moon Summits. This is God's country. Just set it straight.
okay, understood.
And, your comment about everybody needs a coach, everybody should be coaching. I think we should coach elementary, high school, and junior high, and played sports in college, but I think coaching is important at every single level. as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, talk about college coaches, pro coaches being critical, but I think at every single level is critical, because you teach so much more than just the sport.
You local ministers,
When
I
you're
mean,
younger, yeah, you teach a lot more than just the sport.
every place I've been as a superintendent, one of the first things I do is reach out to the Ministerial Alliance, because they're such a lifeblood of your community. And, if there's ever a crisis, that's who you call. You can call that local group of ministers, and I don't know, here, but Beech Grove and Westfield and even Decatur, I mean, you know who those key people are, and you call that one person, you have a crisis, they can get a team together. And I think that's part of your culture that you have to have. So, anybody else want to share?
It's my grandparents. I mean, hardworking and honest. My grandmother taught in a one-room schoolhouse. So she taught around 12 kids from first grade to, of course, 12. And so that schoolhouse is still standing today in Jefferson County. So,
And my grandpa taught in a one-room schoolhouse in Doty. And I didn't know that till I was older, because he was so quiet, never drank. His favorite drink was milk. And I mean, had the old pump house, was that building still stands there today. But anybody else want to share on that level?
I'd say my grandfather, kind of like Jim, I lived right close to him and right next door really, and he could fix or make anything out of
Yeah.
anything, and he'd squirrel away all this stuff here, there, and yonder, and he could solve problems like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Just the stuff they had on hand, pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you think about that. My mom and dad and both my brother, my sisters, they're all deceased, but they're here, and I always carry them with me, and that's so important. And I tell you those things. I told the principal today. I said, I'm all about academics. I'm all about careers, but the most important thing to me is wellness. And what I mean by wellness, I want our kids to be healthy. And we talk, our motto at Westfield, and we try to be a small school in this. We're going to grow 500 kids this year. I mean, it really is hard on culture. We're going from 6 to 8 elementary. I mean, it's just, it's really interesting to me. And what I'm trying to do is take this district that was really small. My kids, when we lived there, there was one elementary, then 2, and now we're 6. Now we're going to 8 in 2 years. And how do we keep that small Westfield Quaker culture? How do we keep that in this big environment? And you guys are really lucky in so many ways, because you're a good-sized school district, and yet you got this great community culture. And I think that's so important. And I think that's the role of the superintendent and the board, to try to bring people together, no matter what it is. And it's a fun job, an interesting job. But I just believe that the most important thing we can do as educators, and like I said, we can make a difference for generations. And it's a challenge from that standpoint. But I'll move a little bit into strategic planning, if that's okay. I could talk academic stuff, and does anybody know what the Baldrige model is in business? Everybody around that, continuous quality and all kind of data stuff. We can talk about all that, and it's all really important. But what's really important is that teacher having that relationship with that kid to make them be the best they can be. And and I think you guys have such a great foundation, and a great history for that. And I think getting the community support is really important. So last spring I worked with 2 schools up in Michigan on referendums, and I asked them. I said, "Do you have a strategic plan?" They said no, and I said, "Well, we're probably a little too late since you're going to the polls in the spring. But let's talk about culture, and let's talk about what can we do to get this going." There's 2 schools in Colorado I might be working with. The referendum's in 90 days, and they reached out to me. I said, well, it takes some time to do that. I've been at Westfield for 3 years, and we are just now doing our strategic plan. And the reason for that is, number 1, relationships. Okay? I made these up the other day. I call it Kaiser's Top 10 to Win. Now, it shouldn't just be Kaiser. It's a whole group of people that put these together. But I've done 4 of these. I've done 3 or 4 strategic planning. And the most important thing, I think, in strategic planning, it's relationships. And that's kind of when I ask you who some of your heroes are. And we won't go through this because of time, but just take 30 seconds. And besides you guys, who are some of the key communicators in your school corporation, in your community? Just think about that. and I won't ask you to shout it up, but just think about that. Because I asked the principals today, and they were like, they knew that. Whether you're gonna do any kind of referendum down the road, it's irrelevant, but if you want people to support your school and support your strategic plan, it's relationships. And again, I'm in my third year at Westville, and we're just getting ready to talk about goals. Because I've spent 3 years, my working relationships with our teachers, our principals, and I've got a 3-page spreadsheet on key communicators for my district. I've got one for Westfield. But, you know, as you start thinking about this, does anybody know Victor Pierce, by the way?
Oh, I know Victor, yeah.
Yeah, you know Victor?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else know him? He's a farmer. Tell me about Victor. I met him once.
I don't know him real well, I just
Yeah.
know, I went to school with his daughter, with one of his daughters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Erin, his daughter, is the best principal I've ever had at Beech Grove. And Erin, her name's Probus now, she's married to a minister. She lives by me in Plainfield, but one of the best people in the world. And she was a halftime teacher, halftime coach for me. I called her in one day, I said, "You're the next principal at Warner Park Elementary," and she got about this big. But I knew from being around her and her values, she went to school here at Bedford Northland. She said she was on the basketball team, but she couldn't hit a layup. But the thing about her, when she took over the building, the first thing she did, she sat down, invited all the teachers in, and invited them to have coffee and tea with me. Because she knew, first building, she did not work in that building, she had to establish those relationships. So as you build a strategic plan, you cannot build that in isolation. Okay? You've got to get the community involved if you want them to buy into it. And it takes some time. When my first year at Westfield, my board said, "We're not going to have any goals for you right now," because even though I've been a superintendent a long time, I'm still trying to find my back, seat in my pants and figure everything out. Well, now we have a process that we do on strategic planning with myself and my board. I even have board rubrics that my board developed that they follow. And if they don't follow them, they remind each other. It's so cool because I don't have to do that, they do. And I can share that with you. But my board has really worked hard about getting relationships together. I had a board member it was right during COVID, and that was a tough time. And he and two of my female board members, he made a comment to him, and I think he made a comment to him that really offended them. And I pulled him aside and I said, "Hey, I won't say his name, but I said, you realize that you're not going to get anywhere unless you establish a relationship with those two board members." And I spent a lot of time coaching him on how to have the relationship with his other board members. Now, he's going off the board because he's got a little kid and he works at Purdue. But we spent a lot of time trying to really work together on how we can make decisions. We had a lot of discussion. We had a 2-hour meeting the other night just talking about continuous quality improvement and new high school diploma. But we spent a lot of time, getting our board to come together, and they ask a lot of tough questions. But it's been a good experience for me. My board members at Beech Grove, Beth Prindle's been on for 30 plus years. Janice King is in her 20th year on the board, and another Rick just went off the board. He was on for 20. And it was amazing how those board members coached each other up. It makes it a little bit easier. But as you start talking about strategic planning, community engagement, it's got to start with relationships, okay? And my number 10 is also relationship, okay? The second part thing I think is really important. So, Dairyland and Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. So, I was head basketball coach at Monrovia, and the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, it was the big game with Eminence, okay? And so I was 20-something, big game, first head coaching job, and we're playing Eminence. And you got Greg Gore, and the Gore family is the largest farmer in that area. Dad used to be head basketball coach. The grandpa's farmhouse split Eminence and Monrovia. So depending on which bedroom you slept in is technically where you would go to school. Big game. So we beat Eminence the first game of the year. I thought I was the greatest coach in the world. If you know much about that area, the Everett's Farm Implement places up there, well, Kurt Everett played for me, And I cut Scott Everett from the basketball team, which was crazy because he later was my board president. But I thought I was the greatest coach. On Saturday night, we played Mooresville, and I lost by 40. So Wednesday, that's a big game. So I fast forward. I was superintendent of Monrovia for 3 years. Small district, just love. I still lived there for 9 years when I was superintendent of Beech Grove because I love the community. So I get asked to meet with the Eminence School Board to talk about their referendum that they were doing. And so I met with Mr. Gore, who was the head coach, big farmer, Mr. Shute, another big farmer. They're on the board, and we're meeting in the boardroom, and they go, Paul, I said, how can we win this referendum? I said, it's really easy. Said, go up the corner to the Dairyland, and there's a Dairyland in Monrovia, Eminence, and Plainfield, all owned by they were owned by the same family at one time. You guys go up there and tell them that if they don't vote yes for the referendum, there will be no more Wednesday night game with Eminence in Monrovia because you're going to close. And we all chuckled about that, but they did that. They got 90% of the vote because of the respect that the community has for those people. And so as you move forward with this strategic plan, no matter what you're going with that, it's so important to understand the culture, and you guys know it. I mean, you know, for example, who's really involved in performing arts, athletics, boosters, your elementary schools. You've got to get all those people on board with your strategic plan. And like we talked today, your principals know that you need to select those people that are key communicators so they're in on the ground floor of what you're trying to do. Now, I've looked at your goals, and there's a lot of goals there, and they're really good, okay? But if you want people to buy into them, you got to bring the community together for that. And again, we've tried to do that. With the strategic plan, I think a huge component are you guys. You know, you guys have to be together on where you want to go as a school district. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And you may not agree on everything, but you have to work toward that consensus process. I have a lot of one-on-one conversations with my school board. One of my school board members went to Westfield. They own a big sign company. I mean, she's, you know, I told you guys, never do any kind of branding discussion. It's the worst thing in the world to talk about changing your brand. I mean, this rocks, supposedly these letters are too close to, I wore it up intentionally today. I spent a year talking about a new W for Westfield. I never want to do that again. My board member brought her old Westfield jacket in, and she goes, we need to go back to this color. Okay, but she's diehard Westfield. And after the June board meeting, and she talks to me a lot about things she wants and everything, and I looked at her and I said, you know, those are great ideas. You're an individual board member. Keep telling me those things. And I said, if I agree with them, we'll try to do them. And we kind of chuckled. But her role with me, she tells me a lot of things. I mean, we're doing some crazy, stupid stuff in fundraising that I just don't think we should be doing. I wouldn't know about it except the board member came to me, and we're going to set up part of our plan to work toward that. We ask our kids to pay a lot of money that I don't think they should have to pay. And we're a relatively affluent school district, but I got 25% of my kids on free and reduced lunch. And they can't afford what they're being asked to pay sometimes. But you as a school board, no matter where you go with strategic plan, you got to take time, you got to agree on it, we got to work through that. I did this for referendum, so this is not about referendum, but strategic planning. What's your theme? For me at Beech Grove, it was teacher salary. We had to raise teacher salary, and we got 68% of the community to give my teachers a $2,000 raise through the referendum process. It was a lot of hard work, but we did that. And we added 3 police officers, 4 counselors, and an earlier learning center. But those were our themes. So as you move forward with your strategic planning process, those themes are really important. My second referendum at Beech Grove, we were doing HVAC. We were keeping we won a referendum for 35 cents. We kept that neutral, but our performing arts facilities were really, and we're going through the process. I had a mom that called me up. She goes, Dr. Kaiser, I really support this, but can you put a new wrestling room in too? And I said, well, I'm not sure we can, but we did come back the next time around the referendum. We got the wrestling room in, but you have to listen to the community on what they want with your strategic plan. That's why it's important to get them involved. Your financial history is really important. And I wanted to talk about strategic planning from that standpoint. I have spent 3 years working on mission, vision, and things like this. This is our mission, to ensure high levels of learning and growth for each student. And I would ask you that, can you measure that? Do we have ways we can measure, kids growing? I think you can. And I talked to principals a lot about that. I said, do you know the reading level of every kid in your district? Because you need to know that. That's the foundation for success. Even in algebra, you gotta be able to read. And so, that's important for you guys to have a mission. A mission is where you are, where you're going, what you believe. I asked your principals today, I asked them 4 questions. What do you believe about kids? And if we had more time, we would go through this. What do you believe about kids? That's your heart. What do you know about kids? That's what research. What does it say about reading? We all know for high school, algebra is a huge stepping stone to where you're going to go next. But you don't have to have algebra to be a great human being or have a great job. Right now, I can get someone on at Dean in Indianapolis, an HVAC guy, in 3 years, you're going to make $75,000. They don't have to master calculus, but they know a little bit of math. And so I think it's really important. How do we get kids ready, and what do we do? Our goal is that we want all rocks to be life ready the day after graduation. That's our vision. Pretty simple, right? I'm not that smart, I'm not a big word guy, but I was joking today.
For the crowd, that's your mascot, they're not.
It is, yeah. And I'll show,
Kids rocks.
I'll show you. And like I said, it's rocks, not, we kind of shift from shamrocks to rocks, because Zionsville used to make fun of it. They used to beat us in football all the time. They said, we're going to stomp on the shamrocks. Well, they don't stomp on rocks anymore. One, we had a new football coach, but your theme and what you believe are all really important. But our vision is, where do you want to go? Okay, where do you want to be like? And we just believe in our district, and I don't like all these big words. Again, I'm not that smart, but all rocks are life ready. I think that's pretty important. I mean, don't you want every one of your stars to be life ready the day after graduation, no matter what they do? That's a great, and we can measure all that. We can measure military, we can measure careers, we can measure kids that are going to Wabash, we can measure kids that are going to Ball State, the Harvard of the Midwest, or wherever that might be. But everything we do, we gotta measure it. And that's what we need to do. But I'll go back is, if kids don't leave here or leave my district and understand relationships, it's hard to be successful, both independent and interdependent. So we finally have a mission, and I just put some other examples there from other districts. Our vision is all rocks are life ready. Beech Grove now says Beech Grove, where all students believe that education is the way to change the world, which I think is kind of cool. I can remember that. We develop core values, and core values are just kind of what we believe. I really believe one of them needs to be enjoyment. I think as an organization, we got to enjoy it. We debated about enjoyment or fun. My business guy said we shouldn't have fun. I said no, but we should enjoy it. And that's something that we tried to really instill. And then we just recently developed these collective commitments. Okay, again, that's all. Before I ever start doing my strategic plan, I spent 3 years getting to this point. And so, and again, I've read your goals, which are really good goals. They really are good goals. I've not created my goals yet because I wanted to have, also, I didn't mention guiding principles. These are critical. These are all over my letterhead. We got all this stuff, people are worried about all this and that. And I just told our community, we did this when my kids were there. We can teach honesty, we can teach compassion, we can teach respect, responsibility, and hard work. No one's going to argue about those being taught. And I believe you can teach them. So we have our mission, our vision, guiding principles, core values, and we just did these. So these 3 areas are our focus areas, okay? And I believe if you looked at your goals, and I've looked at them, I don't have them down, and you work backwards, you could probably come up with themes, right, or focus areas. I'm sure one's academics, one might be fiscal, different things. Well, we kind of did that on the front end. Again, these areas. So today, while I was here, we had 120 teachers meeting with my principals and my district starting to work on what are our goals based on those three areas. And again, every teacher in my district has to do a performance target or learning target based on these three areas. And I could talk a lot about what we do to work with our teachers and staff on it, but that's kind of, before we really got into strategic planning there. Now my board and I have goals. We had to have these in place. And as we move forward with our strategic plan, this is going to be real important. What's our communication plan? We use the term we're rock strong because we don't want to be stepped on by as a shamrock. Building a culture of excellence at Beech Grove, it was Point of Pride, one of it. These are all different things I put together. I'm sure you guys have themes, but I think those are important. And I always say, does it look good on a t-shirt? At Beech Grove, one of my board members came up with small schools, great opportunities. And we think we have great opportunities, especially for an urban school. But, as you move forward with your strategic plan, having a calendar, having it worked out, talking about, what you're going to do with that, who you're going to bring in. But I just firmly believe if Kevin does a strategic plan in isolation by himself, and he doesn't involve in the community, it doesn't mean diddly squat. Because you got to get your community, they're your patrons. That's who you work with. I just think it's important to do that process. And I told Kevin, we created a strategic, not me, we created a strategic plan in 4 meetings. And that became our third referendum. But I wasn't going to do a referendum until I had a strategic plan in place. And I can share that with you. One was increasing teacher salaries, one was improving facilities, and we had 7 things, but they all tied back to focus areas that we talked about ahead of time. Then I'm going to kind of finish up. As you move forward, I'm a data person. What's the reading level of every kid, even high school? Are we doing common assessments? How are we assessing? There's what we call dashboard and scorecard. I want to know how kids are doing on common assessments. I mean, state test scores are good, but that doesn't tell me how good a kid is doing. And I'll emphasize again, I think wellness is probably one of the most important things we can do. And the last thing I'll point out there, and building a strategic plan, it's all about relationships. It is, And once you do have your strategic plan or if you would ever do a referendum, the next one starts the next day. You got to get people involved, and you got to sell it. So every time after we won a referendum, we created a video. We went around. At Westwood, we had 1,000 yard signs out. At Beech Grove, we had 500. Our maintenance staff went out and took a thank you card and put it at every door if everybody had a sign in the yard. Then we took the sign back because we wanted to use it. But those are some of the things that we've done with strategic planning. Like I said, I could talk for hours about things that I believe you can do. We send a newsletter out every Wednesday. It goes out to 40,000 people in the Westfield community because I want them to know everything that's going on in our schools, even if they don't have kids in it. Either they had kids or they're going to have kids coming in. We speak 73 different languages in my school district. When my kids were going there, we probably spoke 3. But that's kind of what we're all about. Okay, let's do this if that's okay. Do a shoulder partner and just talk about the stuff I went through. Because I'm just going to let you sit. Think for a second. The shoulder, you can go to YouTube and go together. Just talk about what you heard and what you think.
privately.
There's a lot
Your
of people
friend
in
is?
town that do.
Yes, we see.
No, not right now.
Okay, so what's your takeaway from me rambling for about 20 minutes?
I have some notes here, I can start. That comment about the Harvard of the Midwest, I don't know about that. I thought it was in West Lafayette myself.
Well,
but
I understand that.
we're gonna start somewhere.
Well, I will tell you, Braden Smith, the point guard,
Yes,
is a Westfield graduate and is the most down-to-earth person, and his mother is my assistant athletic director. He has a younger brother who's gonna be even taller than me. So I go back to Rick Mount. I'm a huge Purdue fan. I can tell you the starting five of the 1969 team that got beat by UCLA, but we digress. So,
there you go.
but what else besides the ball stuff?
I liked your newsletter.
Yeah,
I really like that idea.
and I can show you a copy tonight if you
I
want to see
told
it.
them, I said, you know, the schools don't know what each other's doing, and if you don't have kids in the school, you definitely don't know. So I really like that
And
idea.
it's all about success stories.
I mean, we talk about the fact that, the strategic plan is something, I've been on the board 8 years almost, and it's been a topic from the very beginning, and yet it's a constant, never-ending, putting out a fire type thing, and never actually getting to it. And that's gotta be the focus of this board going forward, is committing to, okay, we're gonna take the next 4 meetings, we're gonna take a retreat, we're gonna do something that we're gonna sit down and get this on paper, and it being a living document that we constantly can look back to. Everything focuses towards that. Anything we do is based on what our strategic plan is. And if we get outside of that, we gotta get back in, we gotta hold each other accountable to get back in.
And I have a document I'll share with you tonight. It's called a performance or learning target that takes the strategic plan and puts it in place. And pretty simple stuff. And I do want to emphasize, this is my opinion, is that a strategic plan should be a community-involved process. It should not just be the superintendent and the school board. You represent, you're voted in, but having them involved, if you really want them to buy into your strategic plan, you've got to, for example, the 2 that I did at Beech Grove, I had 50-plus people involved. My principals would, I say, okay, I need 3 from every building. I wanted people off the city council. The mayor, both times, same mayor both times, but he was on it. That's why I started with relationships and key communicators. You guys know who they are. Even if they don't have kids in school, they are key communicators. I asked the principals, I said, where does all the farmers go for breakfast here? What are the places they go?
A couple places.
Yeah,
Johnny Junction's up north.
Yeah.
And then out east would be Farmers.
and it's
Holds on
important.
weekends.
Holt's on the
Holt's
weekend.
if they're open.
Yeah.
Holt's if
And
they're
it's
open.
important to have people that go there, even though they have kids in school, they should be on your plan, because when the school's doing this, they can say, oh, no, this is the why and why we're doing it, whether it's, and I'm not talking about any big thing, but, if you do a $5 million bond issue, you can use that group to help communicate. The other thing that we do, I did mention it today, we have a Shamrock Academy. We just finished through year 3. We invite anybody in the community to come and meet with us once a month, and we give them a tour of all the schools, and we teach them about schools. So I now have over 90 community members, and we give them a plaque. They've graduated from the Shamrock Academy. They're also key communicators. So if I have a crisis, or if I hear things, it's much better than going to the Westfield Moms Facebook and trying to debunk something that might be on there. But I've got this whole group of Shamrock Academy. You gotta have a Star Academy, and their patrons, their parents, and we walk them through. They understand transportation. We walk them through every aspect of our school, and it costs you 0 money except for breakfast and a plaque at the end. That's part of the culture that we've done, which again is all part of us building that community support. I've got 10,000 kids this year. Again, we're going up 500. We'll probably be 10,003, and I've got to take this big district and keep it as small as I can, which is not easy. What else did you take away? I can show you a sample of what we do. It's very simple, and she can start it back since she walked out, secretary, get the cast along with your communication stuff. So, easy to do. What else, other takeaways? Hi, Wendy, it was nice.
Hi,
nice
sorry
seeing you.
that I'm
late.
That's
From-
okay.
from-
We understand.
From
It's-
Indianapolis, which is kind of like being in a parking lot
Yes.
right now.
Well, I live in Plainfield, and I drive to Westfield
Okay.
every day, so I know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I drove from Westfield to Decatur Central for a long time.
Yeah, I was
so.
actually, I had to be near Westfield. Is where
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
frustrating, but you can't do anything.
Yeah, yeah. I use AC, our dual credit program all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get Purdue. Purdue is not as flexible in dual credit, but we're working on them. So, but,
They have real standards, that's why.
what's that?
Because they have real academic standards, that's the reason.
They really do, so. And we send a lot of our kids, we started an ag science program that I did at Beech Grove too. We got a lot of kids now going to Purdue in ag science. And Bex is our neighbor up to the top, so we got a lot of kids. We have probably 8 kids out of our, I'll call it an FFA group that said they're all going somewhere to continue ag science. I mean, fastest growing industry, and a lot of our parents in Westfield don't realize that we have one of the largest ag science communities in Westfield, and Agrinovis and all these places, so we're educating our parents and our kids, and they're gonna be very successful. And a lot are going to Purdue. Some are going to Ivy Tech to then go from there. What else do you take
I
away?
was buying some overpriced gas today at the gas station, and there was a van on the other side, the other set of pumps, cargo vans, I couldn't see who was over there.
Yeah.
There was a couple that were talking about school bus routes. We just recently put a thing out in the community about the new bus routes.
Yeah.
So from conversation, it sounded like the lady had been or is a bus driver, and this guy was asking her questions, so they were kind of going back and forth on it. And some of what they said was accurate, some was maybe not so accurate, think they're doing this, think they're doing that, but they did do this, they did do that, so. And so I told my wife, I got in a car, I said, if it's talking about the gas station, that's out in the community, we're talking
Yeah.
about it, so, what we present needs to be at least
And
100% factual. but-
And your newsletter, weekly newsletter can do
But
that.
you can't put, in something like that, you can't put every single thing in there.
Yeah.
But it has to be something that is 100% accurate,
Yeah.
and then you can build on that, so.
And you can even ask
Make
your
sure
local,
key commanders know what it is.
you can even ask your local churches to put a link to that newsletter in their bulletins. There's things, trying to bring the whole, once a kid graduates, you still want to keep them engaged, and parents, and you've got to really work hard at, that's that whole communications piece. And again, this is not about doing a referendum, it's about getting the community engaged and loving your school and getting them involved. And quite frankly, get some people to move back here, transfer back. Again, Beech Grove has 1,000 transfer kids. And when I went there in 2008, we had 10. And, we have a lot of our people in Beech Grove that they get a better job and, they want to move to a bigger house, but they still keep their kids in Beech Grove. They'll move to Franklin Township where, you have more land, you can buy a larger house, but they still keep their kids there because we communicate. We started a Hornet Blast my second year there, and my director of communications did it, along with my secretary, and I brought it to, I actually used it during the interview process at Westfield. I made one up and sent it to the board after that, but it goes out, it went out today at 4 o'clock, I guarantee you, like clockwork. I reviewed a Wednesday at noon, and it's sent out to everyone, and again, we tied into some of the services outside, it hits 40,000 homes in Westfield, every Wednesday. They can select out of it, but we gotta communicate to everybody whether they have kids in school or not. They have to know what we're doing. So if you hear something about that, or if we hear a rumor on Facebook or something, we don't respond. We slide it into our Shamrock Blast, and without saying we heard this, we try to correct what was being said on the community through that weekly newsletter. And then I also know a lot of the people that run, we know people that run the Facebook, and we will give them correct information, but you can't let certain things go unaddressed if you need to.
But you can't either say that it's only David's job or only Kaylee's job.
You're right.
I mean, if that's gonna be a pillar of what we wanna do, and I
Yeah.
think that certainly is communication, then
Yeah.
everybody's gotta be on board with that.
Yeah.
Every story that's gotta be fed up has got to fed up.
I would see them as being integral to the
format and the
operation,
broadcast.
really
Absolutely.
operationalizing
Yeah.
it.
What goes out.
They come up with the how, and we come up with not we,
Yeah.
but the leaders in this school.
All 10 of my buildings are involved. We have a process.
Mm-hmm.
I meet every Monday with my cabinet, we do success stories of what's in the blast this week, and then my director of communications sends it out to all my principals. What stories do you have? We put stories in like, this kid won the AAA tricycle race. It doesn't matter the score, we put it all in there. And I can send you guys copies of that. You can go to our webpage and see them, but I've been doing that for 12 years. And like you said, let's talk about all the success stories we have in the district. And again, you have kids that are homeschooled, you have kids go to the district, let's bring them back. And you can't do that unless you set up the communication plan. We send it, at Beech Grove, we send 2 newsletters a year. We send it to every zip code that touched Beech Grove. Because I'm not
When
bashful
you
to
say
say,
send it to.
we mail it to their homes, to every zip code that touches our school district. Remember, one kid brings you $7,000, so it's worth doing. And that's our success stories, that's what's going on. And we also, and Kevin knows, I talked about in my class at Indiana State, anybody 60 years older gets in free to every event, whether they live in our district or not. And we called it a Hornet card and now a Shamrock card.
I'm almost there.
That was-
Getting closer all the time.
We look at it this way, you paid your dues, you pay taxes, you get that age. My athletic director said, I really don't like that. I said, okay, then we won't do it, but you have to start paying for transportation for athletics. He goes, that's okay, you won't go ahead and do that. So, and obviously we let employees in free, but that communication is just so critical of getting your message out, and it's ongoing, it's part, and again, based on what Kevin's told me and what I know, to me, one of your goals could be is in bring enrollment back by increasing communication and getting you got so many great success stories here, both academically, performing arts and things. We stream every elementary concert now. It goes out. We have a huge diverse population in Beech Grove. Our 4th largest language is Vietnamese. And obviously Spanish, different Indian dialect. So we have parents in Mexico and all over the place watching their kids perform basketball games. Every elementary performance, we now stream it live. And it's amazing. And I said when I got there, I want grandma in California to watch their kid in Westfield watch the Shamrock Musical, and we've accomplished that. I have a full-time videographer. I know it's a cost, but I look at it this way, by doing that, if I get 10 kids to stay in school or come back, I just paid for that. That guy he's a former teacher, and but video is a great tool, and we stream everything. Anything that's going on positive. I just did my back-to-school message. We video, we send that out. We just had a grand opening of an addition. We do a video of that. We're doing a lot of construction right now. We're constantly videoing out what's going on with that construction. Taxpayers are paying for it now. We're able to do it without raising taxes, but it doesn't matter. I want those parents to know what we're doing. And you can go to our webpage, Westfield. You'll see some of those videos on there. But it's communication, communication, communication,
That's where
communication.
we lacked.
Yeah. But it's like you said, it's a collective effort. It's a collective effort. It can't just be Kevin. Part of the biggest problem was getting my principals to send stuff. So I just had a father, son, daughter chat with them. I said, ladies and gentlemen, it is part of your job responsibility to send everything to my director of communications. He puts it together. But I said, that's part of your job. We got to send the message, and now they do. But like you said, you can go on our website. You can see we've got it all goes through YouTube, and we stream everything. Again, I want the grandmother in California to watch their grandchild. I had one mom. She called me and said, Dr. Kaiser, thank you so much for streaming that. My other daughter was sick. I couldn't go watch the performance at Cary Ridge, but I got to sit there with my daughter and watch it. Another parent called me because their daughter, who was in the music show, was sick, but yet she got to watch it from home and watch her friends. So, what are the takeaways on strategic planning?
I was just gonna work our population is declining,
Right.
and that's what's a big part of what's killing us.
My goal is to help you change that.
Yours is, but how's our population coming up? I don't mean our school population,
Yeah.
I mean our
He
county
means our like
population.
county,
Yeah, that's really.
I mean, you have the other problem,
Yeah.
they're flooding into your county
But
because of where you're located.
But Beech Grove, I had a declining enrollment, okay? And what you want as much as possible, You don't want people, I mean, we know jobs are, it's all, so much job driven.
Yeah.
And your generation, we have less, but you can recruit people to come to school here. You're a good school corporation, but you can't do it unless you communicate it. And not that you wanna steal from Mitchell and Bloomington and other places,
We'll
but.
steal from anywhere. We don't have a problem stealing, we just wanna know how to steal good.
Okay, and then but you gotta start a marketing campaign, you gotta build, you gotta do videos, you gotta send newsletters to people around you. Brown County, Lori Hammock, a dear friend of mine was superintendent, she took over for me. They were losing so many people to the districts around, because Brown County's, I mean, it's a large district, and it was much easier to go to Indian Creek, or Bloomington, or Columbus, than driving to Brown County. And she was my assistant for 7 years. She just started recruiting, news videos and things like that. And she still does that at Beech Grove right now. I mean, she's much prettier than I am and much more articulate, but it's all about marketing. And I teach my class, I do a whole segment on how do you market your school? And how do you get them coming back? And how do you get businesses to buy into what you're doing and things like that? But that's all part of your strategic plan. And it's not hard, you just gotta just do it. You've got a great, great school corporation, but even some of your parents that are here, they may or may not know, even if they had kids, they don't know what's going on now, and you want their support. You want them to say, this is a great school. And it's just putting it together, but that's all part of your strategic plan. It's also part of his, what I call performance targets, and like I said, I'll pass this around. He's got copies of this he can give you. Again, I looked at your stuff, it's really good stuff. So how can we take that and those goals you have and create performance targets, which has accountability for people within the organization to carry it out? It's one thing to give it to them, it's another. So this is I brought a lot of stuff today.
Can I ask a question? And you may have covered this because I'm late. But one thing I was wondering about, as we talk about getting some of those families back who might be at a charter school or a different school, have you ever done, or do you know if there's a way to capture from them, would they come back, and what would bring them back?
Call them.
Because I know there's some people who really they're not going to come back no matter what we send them or show them. But I think it would be helpful to know, especially for people who are in maybe neighboring districts, like they are in Mitchell, they are in Orleans or Bloomington or Eastern Green. What is it that would get you back here?
Well, first of all, there's a list of those people.
Right.
By law.
Yes.
That's out there. And I know that's not really big, but I'm gonna leave it up. But I just think basically you get on the phone, they're not gonna answer a survey. I mean, they probably.
Right. And I think also to just have a sense of, things will start. There will be some things that we can't change, right?
Yeah.
But if the answers start to coalesce around some certain areas of, okay, well then we need to either work on those areas or highlight those areas if that's happening and people just aren't aware.
You could do it. What you could do, your office staff, at some point in time, they're going to ask for records, okay? And they may come in physically, withdraw. They may do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that happens, they're leaving. You can have a survey that you call them up, say, hey, sorry you're leaving, and we'll make sure you get the records. Can you tell us why are you going where you're going? It might be employment. It might be they don't like the elementary principal, or they don't like.
Yeah, there's certain things.
They don't like the superintendent. I'm just kidding, but I think those are important. Kind of an exit survey with people that are leaving.
Right.
I think that's important data.
Yeah.
And many times it's perception.
Well, exactly. That's what you're talking about marketing. There may be a perception of something that we can correct.
Right.
Other times there won't be.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I really believe Facebook is a good source for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you follow Facebook, you'll hear people, I'm not happy with this. And you gotta take that and filter it. Okay? And they're just mad about this, but sometimes what they're saying might be accurate. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think you have to look at all mechanisms and all areas and try to really say, hey, how much truth is to that? I mean, are you doing an exit survey with your employees?
I think we do.
Yeah, I think that's important.
But I
You
think looking at, and what you mentioned about Facebook, like regardless of if the details are right, that is people's experience.
That's right.
They have an experience that they're talking about.
Yeah.
And
It's a perception in
it's
their mind.
it's a perception, and
Yeah.
and perception is reality,
Yeah.
and what their child experienced or what they experienced is real.
Yeah.
And so I think capturing it, because sometimes I feel like we're trying to increase enrollment, but we don't have a really. It's like you're trying to intervene on something without knowing what the etiology
Right.
of the problem is, right? Like
Yeah.
what is the thing that what part of the car is broken, right?
I think step one is create, I call it success story week. I know, to me, it would be, every one of I mentor a lot of superintendents, and a lot of my, like Travis Madison, Travis is one of my students, and Kevin and Tina Bennett down in Clarksville. I just try to tell them, this is what it's like to bring your community together. And I think sending a star blast, or whatever you want to call it, every Thursday, and I like Thursday, because I got time to put it together. They're not gonna read it Thursday night, but they might read it Friday, they might read it Saturday, and we're always trying to work ahead. But we've got videos in there, we've got links to newspaper, like all the newspaper articles you have for your band, everything else, they go in there, you put those links in there. We have kids, we've got some local magazines. If there's a story in that magazine about a kid, we're gonna link to it. Obviously Braden Smith, if you follow pretty basketball, Westfield guy, we do things like that. We've got kids that just signed with different universities, we're highlighting that. We just had one of our football players just got a full ride to Cornell. And you might know what Cornell's famous for.
Aren't they in ag school?
They are an ag school.
They're ag school, yeah.
So one of the Gore brothers went to Cornell and played with Randy Whitman's son at Cornell. And so I have an athlete, football player, who got involved in ag science, and he's taking the full ride to Cornell so he can go to their ag school. And I promote the heck out of our ag science. We're actually building a new greenhouse. We're building a 3-story academic wing. It's gonna be locker rooms, multi-purpose classrooms, and we're gonna put the greenhouse on the roof, right? If you've been to my Westfield, you'll see the stadium there. Building's gonna go there. We're gonna put the greenhouse on top. And the reason I'm doing that, because I understand the jobs in ag science. My parents don't. And I want everybody to see that we're teaching ag science. And again, Beck Hyper is top 5 in the country, maybe in the world. And their jobs are just, you name it, all kind of jobs, but our parents don't know that. So
Plus
we're
you
gonna
can't
highlight
greenhouses in
it.
the basement, they don't do so good.
What's that?
You can't put greenhouses in the basement either.
No. I want it right on 31. I want everybody to see it. So, Schmidt Associates, we're planning that to break ground next year. But just a lot of different things. So,
Do you feature your arts programs, music, and all that too?
I'd be run out of town if I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Our marching band has gone from 60 members to 120. They went from we're the largest class, but we were in the kind of the subclass. Last year they competed, and and we're building a new performing arts center. And at Beech Grove, we did a referendum. We have build a band room there. It's the size of a basketball court. Does anybody know why you want your band room to be the size of a basketball court? Winter guard.
Yeah.
Winter guard is huge for kids, and it's huge for kids everywhere, and you perform winter guard on a basketball court. So our band room, we built the size of a basketball court. Probably larger than we needed for band, but we needed it for that.
Yeah, I think featuring our clubs, our academic team, all of
Absolutely.
it.
Well, I'm sitting there thinking, we don't have a newspaper, so what class, what group of kids, what if we had our own news group that wrote stories?
Journalism.
That, we put the link in, so it could be journalism, it could be,
TV studio,
we got the podcast stuff.
they could do that.
Letting all them get involved in it could be huge.
So I hired one of my teachers. He's a technology over the top. When I first went there, we do what are called system-to-system meetings. I meet with every one of my teachers every year in small groups. And I ask them 2 questions. Tell me your success stories. What can we do to enhance teaching and learning? And then I meet with my principals 3 times a year. And then my principals have to meet with their teachers 4 times a year. And it's called system-to-system meetings. And that's where we talk about all these educational things and all this stuff. And so when I first got there, I invited any teacher to come meet with me. Sean was there the first day, said, we need to do more with this. And I can show you a ton of videos that we do. Like, we're building a new tennis facility, we're pumping pictures out. Those are all on our website if you want to look at them, because taxpayers are paying for those. They need to know what's going on in schools, and you guys got great things, and you gotta
Like our
communicate.
B&L floor, I mean, we should,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That'd be good.
That should be
to
out
have
there.
pictures of
Yeah,
it.
maybe that should be on your
It's
webpage
historic, it's
someplace.
50 years old.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they haven't replaced the floor.
Well, by the way,
That's the
I'm,
original floor they told
Well,
me.
the original floor, but it's been
Well, that's-
refinished.
It's
Yeah,
been
several
but
times.
finished.
Usually it
Not
never
good.
lasts that long.
Yeah.
50 years is a long time for a floor, and that's amazing. You got every dollar out of that floor.
well, I have a piece of the Mylan original floor in my
What did we do with
office.
the old floor? We should have handed that. Segment, like.
Oh,
Mine's
yeah,
still-
no, this is,
Still-
you were
yeah,
still
we're
using the
still
old floor.
using-
Oh, that's still the one, oh,
Yeah.
I took that picture.
No,
of me.
that's
You were
sanded.
replacing
You
it.
can only sand it down, you can only sand it down so
See,
much.
our board member didn't know what was
Refinish
going
it.
on.
Well, I thought it
See,
looked
if
like
we'd have
brand
had
new
video
wood.
out there.
Well,
It's refinished, they're sanding.
It's on its
My wife
last
said they sanded that thing
sanding,
at least
let me
5
tell you.
times.
But part, as I hear you guys talk, to me, you know, as you guys, I would think one of your steps, and I'll be glad to come help with, I told Kevin, as long as you feed me, I'll come down. And I think getting this community group together with key communicators, I prefer
Down
M&Ms.
payment.
But I'll tell, but I think you gotta get your community telling you what they believe,
Right.
okay? And then I'll throw out, you start a Star Academy, you start inviting you throw it out there, who wants to be on that? We just sent applications out, that we had probably 55 applications for 30 spots to be in our Shamrock Academy. And we try to select, and they come in once a month, starting in August, and we teach them transportation, we teach them maintenance, we teach them everything that we're doing, operations, academics, and everything. They go all over, we do different location, and they get an education on what's going on in the district. Again, that's 30 people that are now cheerleaders for your district. Some have kids not in school, some have kids outside of school, some are there. They are amazed at transportation. When Larry Johnson comes in, and talks about they're like, oh my gosh.
The
You know,
transportation director comes one night and teaches transportation.
we do it during the day, we do it.
Well, whenever,
Yeah, he does all
And then your
transportation.
maintenance guy comes in.
Maintenance guy will come and do operations. We do, you know, I'll talk about growth and strategic planning and stuff like that. My academic team will come in and talk about, you know, what we do with performance targets. And by the way, every one of my teachers has to complete one of these, okay? And it's not optional. And now, when I got there, we had 6 areas. I had 6 areas at Beech Grove, and, you know, different things. And we've narrowed it down to, we have 3 focus areas: academics, careers, and wellness, and I showed that to you before. And from there, my principals and my teachers all have to have we've changed this for our teachers and our principals to a learning target, not a performance target. Now, my maintenance will be, you know, performance. And so every teacher has to come up with a goal based on their academic performance of their kids. Okay, what I told the principal today, I said, you meet with your teachers once every 9 weeks, and they must bring their data. Okay, so as you look at strategic plan for Kevin, you'll look at whatever you come up with your focus area. Again, you've got a lot of goals. I would suggest you go back and looking at those goals and say, okay, what are the focus? Obviously academics, financial stability.
Put them in bigger buckets, right?
Yeah, bigger buckets. And then you create your, in his case, in district, it'll be a performance target. And then this is your goal, strategic planning focus area, academics, finances, whatever that might be. And then you create a year-long plan. Sometimes for us at Beech Grove, it was a 3-year get an early childhood center. It just took that long to be able to do it. But then this becomes a catalyst for taking your strategic plan. So I can show you what we did at Beech Grove. We had different areas, but they all came back to the focus areas. And from there, then we started developing performance targets on how to get to that strategic plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Simple stuff.
It's like your map. For
Yeah,
how to
it
put
is. It's a
in.
curriculum. And I tell people, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I was on the academic team when I was in college. I got the award for carrying the most books on road trips because I didn't play a lot. But This is just, I told the principal today, this is not hard. And it's not hard, again, we can do a strategic plan in 4 meetings, okay? It's not hard to do. And I'll go back and I'll repeat this again, because it's what I believe in. I learned this from David Briggs at Alhambra High School back in about 1990-something. There's 4 things that I think are important. What do you believe about kids? And if we had more time, I'd take you through that. See, I believe all kids can learn. Success breeds success. And we as a school control the conditions for success. I told the principals today, if your building's not achieving, it's your fault. And I believe that. If you're a leader, okay, you know, you've got the tools, but you've got to hold people accountable for performance targets, but you also have to give them the tools. You've got to teach them how to do common assessment. You've got to do a lot of things. But I really believe all kids can learn, success breeds success, and we as educators control the conditions for success. You know, our test scores, we're in the top 10 in the state of Indiana, but our black males in 7th grade are underachieving. Our Latino population in my district are underachieving, and my goal is to find, what are we going to do to address that category of students? You know, we graduate 98% of our kids, and I say, what happened to the 2%? You know, but how do you design, you have to look at your data, and where you're not achieving, and then you design backwards from there. And you don't beat people up with it. You know, you've got to teach people how to look at formative and common assessment. You've got to teach people how to read data. Yeah, I mean, it's a process. I told the principal today, he said, you go slow to go forward. You know, and your goals, they're great goals, but it's going to take time. But I would suggest, and I'll be glad to work with you on it, as long as you feed me, is hope you kind of design back. But this is something every teacher in the district and every administrator's operations, everybody should be doing, you know, at some point in time, but you gotta go slow with it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So what would be your suggestions for action items as we move forward?
Well, I think you as a board just need to spend some time together and talk about, you know, where do you wanna go, what process do you wanna use? I can help. It's not my place to run your strategic plan, but I can help your people do the strategic plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's gotta be you. But I've got all kind of documents. The first thing I would do would be this. I would get, you guys start submitting, list to him, who are the key communicators, okay? Who do you think is a voice in the community? And that's what I did with my board. They gave me names. And I did, as soon as I got to Westwood, I said, give me the key communicators. I got a 2-page list now. And then your teachers, your head of operations, who do you think are key communicators? In a district this size, you want 50-plus people that you're going to get together, and you know, you tell them, hey, we're going to build a strategic plan. Take your goals and put them aside for now. They're good goals. You'll come back to them, okay? And then I start with those 4 questions. What do you believe about kids? What do you know about kids? Research. What does data say about how kids learn? Now, your parents may not know that. You just make sure that in all your tables you have educators that can help with that question, okay? That's you know, what you believe about kids is the heart. And that's important. And your parents will have a lot of good feedback in your community members. What you know, they're not going to know all the research. Your principals do research on reading today because they spit it out. And then the third question I would ask, what do you want for your kids? That is the vision for your school corporation. We want kids, we want all our graduates to be life ready on the day after graduation. That's our number 1 goal. My number 1 goal along with that is I want our kids to be healthy mentally, emotionally. I want them to be good in life. We have too many kids that are committing suicide and it's scary to me about kids right now in life. And I think that's something as a school corporation, that's why we have guiding principles. That's why we work on employability. We're spending a lot of time on that with our kiddos. So what do you believe about kids? That's the heart. What do you know about kids? That's research. What do you want? That's the vision. And then what do you do is the strategic plan. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so you start with all these people and you get them together. I love sticky notes and the affinity process. You assign them to tables. You make sure that you have your educators, you know, spread out. You put them in groups. They come in. You ask them that first question. You take it, And I could show you an example. We've got all this from the last, this is what we believe about kids. Then and the second part of the meeting, you ask them, what do you know about kids? That's a little bit harder for people outside of education, but parents will give you some good feedback on that. I know all kids want to be loved, but there's research on that, right? I know all kids need a loving and caring environment. There's research on that. They may not know all the educational stuff about reading and things like that, but they'll know a lot about kids because they're parents. And then the next time you're going to come back and say, okay, what do you want? And those parents they're going to have a lot of ideas on that. That becomes really the vision for the district, okay? And then the next step is, what do you do? That's the strategic plan. You take all that information, I've got forms to do it, you cross-check, you look out, it'll become very clear. And it's been a while at Beech Grove, and I have purposely not done Westfield yet. I told my assistant superintendent, I want that done by January. We're gonna spend all semester, we're gonna invite parents back in, we're gonna take what we've done, and now we're gonna say, okay, what do you want? But we gotta give them data, we gotta, they don't know what you want unless you provide data on that. And then from that, you'll create your big areas, whether it's, by then you as a board can decide your focus areas. I mean, you know that. Look at your goals and come back. And then you will take all those things they want and then you put them under the focus areas. Okay? So then you've got, to me right now, hearing what you guys want is fiscal probably, right? And part of fiscal is recruiting more kids. And I don't know if that's going to be one or not, but what I glanced at, I know that's in there. And then from there, basically, you create these big statements. We wanted to build an early learning center. That was one of our focus areas because we know the research on early learning, and you have one. But, do you want to expand that? I mean, what can you do? Look at data on early learning in this community and how many of your kindergarten kids are coming to school and never been in a formal school setting. So what can you do to increase the number of kids that are going to some type of early learning, so whether it's a church or whatever? Can you team with church? I mean, whatever that. One might be, we want to increase early learning, okay? And then what do? Your strategic plan is we're going to work with churches, we're going to do a variety of different things you can, from that standpoint. And so from that, then you start making your document, this is what our goals are, and you've got a lot of those already together, and then they go into this form. And then that's when you hold people accountable. And when I say accountable, it's more like, we're going to get this done. It took me probably 5 to 7 years to get the Early Learning Center at Beech Grove, because we didn't have any money. It was the last referendum, and I went back for the ribbon cutting. It was kind of cool from that standpoint. So that's strategic planning. It's not brain surgery. It's not hard. You just got to get the right people involved, and it's got to be a community effort. And let Kevin and his teachers. See, I would suggest that Kevin doesn't lead it, but like your director of learning, and you're a star, right? I mean, you've been here a long time.
I'm Brett.
Yeah, and then you invite him, like he may do a section, your director of learning, he can be the facilitator. I can be there and kind of help, hey, think about this and everything. But again, you can do it in 4 meetings. We ended up doing it in 3 because we got it done so much, and we did the 4th one virtually. Then after that, believe it or not, we went out to every building in the district. We only had 5 buildings, and we presented it out. No one showed up, but we did it anyway. And off that became our next plan for construction. And we did a referendum to give our teachers a $2,000 raise, but it came from strategic planning. And I had 50 plus people that already supported that because they wrote it. And they all have 10 friends that you would say, hey, we had to do ours was construction, so I had to get all these signatures. I called all 50 of those people and said, hey, can you give me 10 signatures? And majority of them went out and got them, and we got it on there. But you got to build that base of support to be able to move forward. And then every year, you as a board, through your system-to-system process, working with Kevin and his team, where are we on this strategic plan? What are our metrics? How, all these things that could go in. I mean, we're a business in education. We have to sometimes run it more like a business. But we're kid-centered. But I think the biggest thing for me coming to Westfield, and I've been in urban districts, smaller districts, but it's all about alignment. my principals have two goals, vertical and horizontal alignment. That's it. Now, that's a huge task, but we talk about it all the time. I very seldom talk about test scores, I talk about learning. You know, how do we measure whether kids are learning? Because test scores are inherently unequal based on a student's background. You know, I don't measure a kid's intelligence based on how they do on any type of state test, because again, I was an 840 on SAT, and I had my PhD, and I had a 2.0 at the end of my sophomore year at Cathedral, and I had a 3.5 in college and 3.8 in grad school, but kids learn at different times. But what other takeaways or thoughts do you guys have?
Well, if you think we had a lot of goals, we actually set some aside.
Okay.
One of those was, you said data, you said metrics, you talked about dashboard, and I don't feel like we think along the lines of data very much, very frequently. There's what little bit I know about the data that's out there off the DOE website, but I don't know how much of a deep dive. I don't think we have a director of data or anything like that. So, you know, how do you get that? Because you said you start with the data. You look,
Yeah.
you know, how do you? And maybe the teachers and principals are doing that, and I just don't know it. I don't see it. But we don't talk. I don't feel like we're fluent in
Yeah,
what we. So
and I think too, I think Tracy was saying it when I first came in, we have been putting out fires for
Yeah.
a long time, and when you look at the data, you're sort of forecasting, right? We've done
Yeah.
that some with enrollment, but I would like us to be in that mode where we are looking at the data to make the decisions and not just trying to keep up
Yeah.
data. So I
And
think that's sort of
some
what
of it
we're.
is. I mean, some of it is readily, I'd say, accessible,
But it's
readable, but like the test scores from the beginning of the year to the end of the year.
Yes.
Where you can see that delta, that increase.
And we refer to that as dashboard data.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that I feel like we
Could use more.
could use more of, we could
Yeah.
become more fluent in, we could become more, so I guess my comment or question is, how do you become more fluent
Yeah.
in data and those
So
metrics?
first of all, I've already suggested that I invite Erin Probus, who used to be Erin Pierce, that went to school here. She is my data queen at Beech Grove. She now works at Perry. And that's Victor's daughter that lives here. We talked about it before. And I'm going to ask Erin, hey, do you want to go back home and work with Kevin on teaching them how to do formative common assessments, how to write them? And then there's multiple ways to look at data, okay? When you guys get in your car tonight and you see a big red light on, if it says you need to change your oil, oh, that's just, okay, it'll be fine. If it says your oil is low, you want to go get that changed, right? But if your alternator light's on or something else, that's a red flag, right? Okay? So you have leading data and lagging data. I learn, and most of the state tests are lagging data. We just got the results 2 weeks ago, and those kids have already moved on to another grade. We call that scorecard data. It's on a score. It's really good to know. But if you use NWA, and I don't know what you use here, that's leading data, and that's dashboard data, because you take it 3 times a year. So if I would go into Hornet Park, where Aaron was, they would have a huge board with every kid's NWA data on it. And they have them coded by cards based on where they land. Okay? That's dashboard data, and you're small enough to do that. Your elementaries are small enough. You can track every kid based on their NWA. Now, the state is going to a new those are called formative assessments. The I learned, that's summative. Now, I learned from the standpoint of testing reading is real critical. Now, there's no research on retaining kids does any good. No, there's no research on that. But yet the state wants to retain kids that they don't pass I learn. And I think it's ridiculous. Now, I think we need to remediate kids, but holding a kid back, there's no research says that they're going to do better. In fact, the research is the opposite. But that's the state. We can't control that. But that formative data, NWA, and the new assessment the state is going to go to, and especially now where we can take it 3 times a year, that's important, okay? But we've got to make sure we're teaching our teachers how to read it, okay? And you have teachers in your district, I assure you, that really understand data, okay? You have some that don't. And so you got to find those data specialists that can help teach. And you probably have some principals that are better than other principals, and that's that collaborative effort. We're in it for all kids and each kid, and it's a process, okay? Because if you graduated my time, you weren't worried about data. But younger kids coming up, but you have to work on that, and you have to teach them how to read it, you have to teach them what's important, and then you've got to create dashboards to recognize that data. And as I talked to the principals today, so you two are both second grade teachers, and you're in the same school, I want you guys to work together on your data dashboard. Test your kids, and have process set up where they're talking about data together. Then I may invite you to come in and sit down with me, and so let's talk about your data. You've got to get your teachers talking about it. And I've told Kevin, and I told my class, we do our system meetings. My principals must meet with every teacher 4 times a year, and they have to bring their data. Okay?
What data though? I mean, is it the test, the lagging, or I'm sorry, the leading?
The leading data. Now,
He also is looking at common
We
assessments
do
that we're gonna have to create.
What I need,
yeah,
remember that, yeah.
yeah,
Because you have to know from the
That's
common
a-
assessment what you're
school year
teaching.
type.
yeah, during the school.
Because
You want to look,
consistency of kids.
yeah, you want to look at those short-term assessments. And the biggest thing for us, I've got 6 elementary schools. I got a ton of kindergarten teachers, okay? Now, we're a high-achieving district, so I can take 5 professional development days. We meet every Wednesday morning in what we call professional learning communities. It is critical. And people might say, well, you're using instructional time. If those are structured right with the right leadership, that's when they start looking at the data.
And you're giving us early release. 7 of them.
Yeah,
We're
same thing.
piloting this year, and that's what we're going to be looking at, and we're coming up with a form, and we have what we'll be covering during that time of early release. If it works well, we would come back to the board following school year and ask for every other week, because it's that important. And it really helped me achieve as a principal at one district from an F to an A in 3 years. If I didn't have that and the common assessment, we would not achieve that letter grade. Because common assessments, I believe, are critical to what we reteach for mastery learning. And thank goodness, Dr. Kaiser will help. We have math common assessments. We do not have English language arts.
Which is harder to create.
Yeah, and he has a graduate from B&L that he knows that we're gonna try to get in contact. Our principals were very happy today that they would possibly have somebody to help them come in. You do have pretty good curriculum here. I will say it's standard-based curriculum. It's been well put together. So that's one phase that we're already pretty good at. Now it's coming up with a common assessment and coming back to the idea we have to reteach. One of the things, you have a teacher behind you, when we were in trimesters, there was a group that came in front of us that said, we don't have time to reteach at B&L because there's no time in a trimester. We're not a college, we're a high school. So the board and the leadership at the high school made the suggestion to go back to semesters. So then we've got to get our teachers thinking, how do we reteach what our kids are not achieving in? Or a tiered system where we do interventions, tier 1, 2, and 3. And you do have some of that already built in. So the neat thing is about our systems and why our principals are so happy today is because Dr. Kaiser was giving them some skills, and he has resources that he's willing to give us and the time that, and first thing he said today was patience. We're here to work with teachers through this system. And I really believe it's a foundation to where we can actually start achieving higher academic success at North Lawrence.
I really believe, I really believe, and I use this example today, on a spectrum, 10, 80, 10. You got 10% out there in the community that they don't like this for X, Y, Z. You got another 10% that are down here, and I'm not gonna change either one of those perspectives, depending what the topic is. But I got 80% in the middle. They wanna send their kids to school. They have confidence in your teachers. They love your community, and they just want great things, okay? And I make my decisions on those 80% as much as I can. Also, when it comes to leadership, I think you got 10% out there that they're gonna bust the wall and they're gonna go through. Who's our teacher? We've got a teacher over here. Okay, that's her. She's in the 10%, right? So she's in 10%, Then you've got this 10% back here who you probably don't want working with your kids. They're nice people, but they're not gonna put the time in, and I'm sure you don't have anybody of those in your district, but some districts do. Okay, and then you got 80% in the middle that, based on the 10% like her, they will follow her because they respect her. And so you get your teachers that become really skilled in common assessments. You can contact the Central Education Service Center, and they'll bring people down if Aaron can't, they can help you do these things. But you create cadres of teachers that really want to do that, and it's the coach coaching the people. It's not him, and it's not his administrators, it's the teachers within the organization that you have to empower, because they're in the trenches and teachers believe it. And I'll go back to success breeds success. If a teacher is successful, he's really successful, he's gonna talk to his other, hey, I've been trying this, and next you know, they're collaborating and they're doing something during PLC time, and then you start this momentum. But you've gotta go slow to go fast. You've gotta be patient with teachers. You gotta take them from where they are, and you gotta be patient. He has to coach his administrators up. I have to coach my administrators up all the time, but I'm coaching them, and trying to move them forward. But it takes time, but you have to have the system in place. And what I've taught Kevin in class, when I talked to the principal today, it's not brain surgery. It's working with teachers, giving them the tools, subtle accountability, meeting with them, talking to them, what can I do to help? Your kids, tell me why these kids are not doing, why are your second grade scores not as good as over here? What do they do? Let's go talk to them. Let's learn from them. We find out they're really knocking out with common assessments. Well, maybe I need to start doing more common assessment. I mean, it's gotta be that collaborative effort, and it takes time. But you have to have that system in place and expectations.
And remember, when we start analyzing data, and we are starting to do this, for example, I asked a question, when we got our iLearn scores back, I asked the principals, how many children received an A in our district that didn't pass the iLearn test? I've got that data. Dr. Kaiser and I spoke about this, and I'm telling you, it's not there's gotta be some change. Because the percentage, I'm not gonna say right now what our percentage was, but we have to, I've set goals already, we are going to achieve state average on iLearn scores. We have some grades here that do that. I think that's not asking a lot. So you're looking at the kids that are, I call the bubble kids, that are right on the edge of passing that test. Why are they not passing it? What interventions can we do? Why are we giving so many A's and they can't pass the state test? We're giving too much homework and we're not doing assessments? Are we not reteaching what they don't master? There's so many hard questions that we're going to ask, and it's uncomfortable. But we're going to ask those questions because I had to do that in other districts to become what I believe an outstanding school. And I was the principal of these buildings. I have to empower my principals to take ownership that, no, we are going to improve. And that's I was here a year and I made acquaintances and I'm learning what this district's about. Now it's time to find areas where we're going to improve. And one of the areas when I came here was we were going to do this plan internally. I think I'm with Dr. Kaiser, having the community be a part of it, especially when we're going to have to ask the community eventually. At the aging of our buildings, we're going to have to do some either reconstruction, remodeling, whatever. But today at lunch, Dr. Kaiser says, what is your most important asset here at North Lawrence? I sat there, I said, it has to be our people. No one has come to me in it this year and said we have lousy facilities. You do not have the facilities what he's building. You don't have the facilities at Jasper. So there's not a community member coming to me saying we have awful facilities. Our facilities is not great as HVAC, roofing, and we're starting to repair that. It is our people that we have to invest in, and we already know through studies we're about $10,000 to $15,000 below pay rate. How do I get great people when I don't pay them? And so he came back and he said, maybe your first referendum after we do this process is to raise the salary. After I get the ratios correctly with other districts, that's teacher to student ratio, you know what our neighbors to the north do to us. They have referendum after referendum, they pay their teachers. We might never get to them, but I made a comment, if we get close, at least under $10,000 close to them, I believe people will come to North Lawrence because of our culture and our hard work ethic here. And we do have a lot of hard-working people in this community that really do love our schools. And I think our teachers have to be valued, and part of that is compensation. And then we hold them accountable through the systems. That this is nothing new. It's when to implement them and having great leaders that can come and help us implement. And I really think the district can really move forward. And he's really, just at lunchtime, really made me think. Because I was really considering trying to say, hey, we've got a couple buildings that's over 100 years old. One's built 1951. They need some work. But it's probably our teachers probably need the first line of help. And then we start looking at our buildings. I know we're on TV, but we have $80 million worth of capacity. He has $600 million worth of capacity. Am I right on that? So we will never be able to have $600 million worth of capacity, but $80 million worth of capacity without raising taxes is a lot of capacity for this size of district. We pay our debt down so quickly here, and that's great. You don't pay interest. But everything we spend as a board, that's about $24 million on fixing things. We're gonna pay it off in about 3 years. So we have capacity to keep doing, but if we go over the $6 million mark, that's our cap. We have to have the public involved in it. That's the law. So he scared me today because Jasper built an elementary school 5 years ago with $35 million. He's building one for
60. Crazy.
So inflation is killing us. $60 million to build a new elementary school really hits my capacity here quickly. So now it's changed me, but maybe we have to think a little different. Maybe we do a remodel / do what, but I think our people have to come first, our teachers, because when I came here, our principals went great. We cannot hire teachers because nobody's applying here. Isn't that frustrating if you're a principal and there's nobody applying for your jobs? Now, I think the board was right when they hired me. Culture is a big thing, and I think we're working on that. But I think down the road, having Dr. Kaiser come in, help us with this process, I think we could really help North Lawrence be the star it is.
I had a couple things. One thing I think is really important. So, Decatur Central facilities were not great. Now they built a brand new school, and after I left, Westfield, we have nice facilities because we got a huge AV. And, we're going to grow 500 kids this year. I'm not sure I'm going to put in rural thing, but the one thing I really believe is school is not about bricks and mortars. At Monrovia, there was an elementary that was built in 1905, and they used it all the way up until the year I got there. And we built a new elementary school, which is now much, but schools, it's all about the people in it. And, money's not a motivator, but it is a dissatisfier. You reach that certain point, and, we were talking about your son working in the local Catholic school, and we know that private schools don't pay as much, but, it's about building that culture of excellence and that success. And you gotta invest in your people, and I really believe that, 90% of people, I go back to my 10-80-10, want to be successful. But we gotta coach them up and help them do that. And leaders within your building can do that. And I also really believe that the majority of educators want to be accountable. Okay? So we got Paul Kaiser over here as a third grade teacher. I'm a slacker. And these two are third grade teachers. They're not really happy with that, right? Because they love kids and I'm slacking and I'm not doing my job. And that working together, we can bring this person up. And I just think 90% of people in education want to do great things. Not all of them have the same skills or the knowledge, but if you work together, you can get them there. It takes those informal leaders to do that, and you can tag those people and coaches, and if you empower your staff through this process, they'll go to it because it's about doing what's best for kiddos. So I'm going to share one more thing, then I'll close if that's okay. So when I went to Beech Grove, when I went to Westfield. When I went to Beech Grove, I had a veteran board. It was my first superintendent's job. And it's really interesting. So I retired. recruited back, and I interviewed at Westfield, and at the end of the interview, Jimmy Cox, who's a Purdue grad, works at Purdue in the alumni office. He's the board president. He goes, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "No, but I've got a comment now. You have to understand, I'm retired, okay? So I can say some things that maybe someone else, I didn't have to work." I said, "Well, I want to talk about the role of the board." And I didn't really know much about the board, at all there. And I said, "Well, your job is to hire the superintendent and get out of the way and let him or her run the district." And I said, "If you don't want to do that, don't invite me back for a second interview." Now, they did. I wasn't trying to defend them, but I was just trying to set the mood. When I was at Beech Grove, I never had to say that because my veteran board members coached my new ones up. And that board, I never say they didn't really, they wanted to fire the football coach when I was there, and I didn't know Dave, the football coach, and I looked at him and I said, "That's not your job. It's not my job as a superintendent to fire the football coach or hire the football coach. That's the high school principal." And I firmly believe that. And when I talked to my class and I talked to other boards, I said, that's got to be your role. And the role of a board, you got to deal with all kind of personnel crazy issues. We know those things happen. And you got to push Kevin to do what you guys consensus want to do. Like I told my one board member, I said it before, I joked with her, I said, "I love your ideas, Amber," and she's really a good board member. And I said, "I really like your ideas when I agree with them." And I chuckled, I said, "When you two other board members agree." But the one thing about, I worked with my board on how do we work together, how do we get along, and things like this. So my board created board rubrics. These are not Paul Kaiser's. I helped lead the process for this. And they're up here, okay? My board wrote this, and we reapprove this every January, okay? And I won't read them all to you, but I meet with my board president and one other board member every Friday before the board meeting, and we review the board agenda together, okay? And we alternate the other board member. Since you have 7, you could have 3 do it. And they just wrote, I don't know who's coming, it's the board president and whatever they set up, but that's important because we go through the agenda. We expect all board members to be prepared for meetings. Every once in a while, I can tell if a board member hasn't read the board packet, and other board members can figure that out too, okay? The board will collaborate with the superintendent and function as a united team and refer questions to the superintendent. So during COVID, I found out we have a lot of doctors and lawyers who live in Westfield because they were on both sides of the issue. I was being bombarded. I made the decision we're going to go to mask because I didn't want it to be a board issue because I had 3 board members running for election. I'd rather have the community upset with me than my board. I made that decision. And not all my board agreed with it, but you never knew it because I just told them, "Guys, we got to go this direction. I'm going to take the heat off you. I'm going to make that decision." And I had 2.5 board members that adamantly did not want to go to mask, but no one in the community ever knew it. They let me know it more than once. And then when things start going down, I said, okay, this whole mask thing is up in the air. We're going to make a data decision. So we looked at our data and we picked a target based on COVID cases, and that's when we decided to go away from masks. But I made it based on data, and I told them we're never going back to masks. But I didn't want the board to have to make that decision, and I made it. But when we went away from it, we looked at data, okay? And so they were getting inundated, so I wrote them an email, and I said, please send this to everybody you get an email from. Thank you for reaching out. This is Dr. Kaiser's cell phone. Please call him, and he'll respond within 24 hours. And either he, and we had in the email, my 3 assistant superintendents, someone will get back to you within 24 hours. And that's how my board functions. Now, I have people that come up and talk to my board all the time, don't get me wrong. But Mike Steele is a retired fireman, and everybody loves Mike. And Mike will come in and say, yeah, I said, Mike, just remind him to call me. He goes, I give them your cell number, and they don't. I said, that's all you can do. Our Shamrock Blast, my cell number is on the last page of that. Everybody in the Westfield, all 10,000 parents and kids, we got more than that, kids, they have my cell phone. I have kids call me, Dr. Kaiser, would you call snow delay? But my cell phone goes out to everybody in the district. I don't care, I mean, that's my job. But my board now, they do not, they constantly are sending people to me. Because individually as a board member, and I don't mind if they talk and listen, I want them to do that. And say, okay, have you thought about this? But I try to educate my board. We're going through a big stuff on fees right now. You know, that whole state of charging fees, not charging fees. And so I sent them a note, said, remind them, call me, you know. And so, and you know what? They love it. Because they not say, well, here's Dr. Kaiser's cell number, call it. They listen, but then they refer them to me. Some will call, some will not. I had a board member at Monrovia who used to always come in and say, man, all these people are upset. I said, well, Jack, give him my cell number. And after about the third or fourth time, he stopped saying that, because I don't think that many people are upset. But we created this is created by my board. I created the message, and it goes out. Now, every once in a while, they'll take a phone call and they'll listen, but they're 99% say, here's Dr. Kaiser's cell, or if it's curriculum, here's Dr. Atha, or here's Brian and Budget. Please call them, they'll talk to you. And we have parents that would do that. We talk vision, beliefs, values. They must evaluate me, but notice it says performance targets. They have to evaluate me on my performance targets. And I just had a really good evaluation, by the way. So, and I'm working 3 more years and I'm retiring. They all know that. But my board is going to create the goals through our strategic planning process. They will approve them. But we invited every teacher in the district at Beech Grove to serve on the strategic planning team. Your teachers have to be involved in it. We selected parents, we selected business people, but we invited any teacher to be part of the process because it's their school. It's not mine, it's their school. We do goals. We really encourage board members to participate in training. We always be brand conscious. You know, I purposely wore my rocks, our new W. Like we did a ribbon cutting the other night on a new edition, and said, okay guys, we're all wearing our black polos, you know, trying to show that nudity. We also set up, this is really easy here. We already know, I can tell you that if he wins the election in the fall, Mike Steele will be the board president. He's the vice president. They've already decided how they're going to move people up. You're going to serve as board president for 1 year, vice president, secretary. Now, you don't have to do that. If you decide, I don't want to really be president, just go back and we'll move people up. But it's very clear. And so at the first meeting, they just say, okay, sure you want to do this. They do unanimous and it's done. But that's important for the board members to know. We'll acknowledge, the last ones were board members will acknowledge the members of the public have been heard and thank them for their input, recording, and then we'll allow the superintendent for staff members to answer questions. They send them to me, okay? And if I get a patron calls, I call them back within 24 hours. I don't care. In the back of the blast, it says, I'm available between 8 and 8 in the morning to 8 at night, call me. Now, I don't have a lot right now, but I have over periods of time. So those are board rubrics. I didn't create them. My board created them. And if you want me to do that with you, I will. All I gotta do is feed me, you know. But that's up to you guys. And then my board, we did a couple, we started, if you go online, look at our board meetings. We do a student of the month. We have 10 buildings. We honor a student, teacher comes up, principals come up, they hug them. We give the kid a frame, and we start every board meeting with student of the month. It's a love fest, okay? Then we take a break. They go down the hall, we take pictures, we invite grandma, grandpa, we take all these pictures, we post it in the blast, we put it on Facebook, we put it every place. Then we go back to the room and everybody leaves except for a couple people. I have a knitting group that comes and watches a board and they knit. They've stopped coming most of the time. But then we do our business, and a board meeting is a business meeting. We're a business, okay? And we're gonna conduct it like a business. And we don't let anybody come speak at a board meeting unless it's on an agenda topic. Okay? If they want to talk to a board, if they've gone through the channel, they met with me, they met with the principal, they got to talk to the teacher, they got to talk to the principal. I don't send them to an assistant suit, they can come talk to me. After that, if they want to meet with the board, I'll have a work session, I'll let them come talk to the board. I've had that happen twice in 16 years. But we have processes that really need to be in place. So my board did this, and every January now for 2 years, they've reapproved it, and they did a little bit of wordsmithing, but it's their document, it's their Bible, and it's funny, I have board members who go, now, Paul, did I follow the rubric? Did I do this? I said, yeah. And again, I want patrons to talk, that's their elected members. But they're there to listen and not, oh yeah, I really think that superintendent, I think he needs to shave his beard. Or I really think that elementary principal. I said, well, tell me why you're upset. Hey, can you send an email? Here's Dr. Kaiser's cell number. Send him an email and he'll get back with you. I had a mom, we dropped the ball on a special ed, and she sent me an email. I turned around, I called her right away. I said, I'm really sorry. We should have had your kid tested. Lindsay, Tom, and Michael will call you today, which I'm sure Lindsay did. But that's kind of how we do business, and it works for. Now, my board doesn't always agree on things, and we talk about it. And I haven't had a no vote yet, but that's because, and if I don't have consensus, I won't take it for a vote. And let me rephrase that. I will take it to vote until I'm sure everybody's had a conversation and they've all had input. And if someone votes no, that's fine. I've had a couple abstain just because, but I might have one next week, who knows? But I spent a lot of time processing. But these are the board's norms, not mine. And they developed them, and it's up to them to kind of, follow what they want to do. So we've been here a long time tonight. I'll do one closing activity if that's okay. In 10 words or less, tell me what your takeaway from tonight, and I won't go in order. And you can do a pass. What's your takeaway from tonight? You can do more than 10, but I always say 10. Anybody want to start?
Communication.
Community involvement.
Community involvement?
I feel like we're making strides toward moving somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been treading water for a while, and I'm looking forward to getting this process started.
It's 110.
Pardon me?
I think it was more than 10 words.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, but he
I don't
he's
talk
a
a lot.
lot.
I really don't.
I have the same as Steve. Mine's the same as Steve, just that I'm excited to have a framework for what we're doing.
And that's what it is. It's all a framework. It's communication framework, it's a system-to-system framework, and it's not hard, and it doesn't cost any money to do it. You just gotta put it in place and set expectations. So, who else? Anybody?
I guess, all good stuff. What are we doing and when are we doing it? That'd
Right.
be okay, let's not leave this room before we at
He
least say,
said- he
when are
said
we
at
next
least 4
getting?
meetings,
Yeah.
and we do need to come up with patrons.
So can I answer that?
Yep.
So what I would do from here is this. He can send you an email and say, give me three to five key communicators. And you can send them to him.
And the principals are doing that as well.
And he's already talked to the principals. He can send them an email tomorrow. I want 2 or 3 key communicators. Make sure you have, are we PTO or PTA here?
Oh.
Okay, make sure you have someone from PTO on it because they're the ones who are gonna get your playground equipment.
We know that.
We know that.
Yeah.
If
So-
Missy Collinsworth is
And you
watching.
want a variety of people, even from those buildings. And you get them together, okay? And then you create a script, like I know Kevin with, hey, we're beginning to fine tune our district strategic plan. We're gonna have 4 meetings. You guys can decide the 4 nights. And obviously you're not gonna hold it in this room. And we're gonna get that, because you wanna tell them up front, it's only 4 nights. And I think we can get it done in 4. It's not hard to do. And he said, we're gonna meet for 2 hours from 6 to 8 or 6:30 to 8:30, give them a time. And I can help set it all up. Again, they're gonna lead it. It's not my place to lead it. But I got all the forms, I got all this. And then basically, I'd wait till after Labor Day just because. And, pick what night are your board meetings?
Thursdays.
Thursdays. So maybe go another Thursday besides when you have a board meeting. Wait a minute, Thursday night football is gonna start, that might be a problem. Okay, here's something to think about. So how many of your parents couldn't come on a Wednesday because of church?
A lot,
We're pretty,
yeah.
So you don't wanna go Wednesday night, but maybe you pick a Tuesday. And I'm serious about Thursday night football. There's a lot of people that may not do because of that. So you pick a Tuesday opposite your board meeting. You pick 4 Tuesdays once a month, and we're gonna meet. And basically, we go, and I can help with the process, And sticky notes are my favorite friend, because you do it all in sticky notes. You get consensus, but again, also, I think you guys collectively need to decide your focus areas, okay? Academics, careers, and learning, or in wellness, you can still learn, so that's up to you guys. But you have 3 or 4, focus areas that you guys feel based on some of your goals that you think are important. My board was very involved, we were involved in that. But ours was easy because my high school was already doing those 3. And I said, well, since the high school, they're end, we adopted their vision with Rocks Are Life Ready, and that, those are things that are important, for you guys to have in place. But that shouldn't stop you from getting this going. And basically, we bring them together and we build consensus, and then after the first meeting, you email them all the stuff that you did and ask them, okay, what would you change? What would you add? What did we miss? Then you go to the next step, and then once you get this, again, I can show you, what do you believe about kids? What do you know about kids? I can show you what we did. You take that, and then you cross-check and said, well, I've got 30 people that think that, we need to have an enhanced early learning center. We need to enhance that. Well, that tells you up front, that's probably going to be one of your goals, and it falls under academics. It could also fall under wellness, or whatever you guys come up with. And then pretty much from there, you're going to come up with 5 to 8 goals. And any more than that, it's going to be hard to accomplish that. Now, within those goals, you're going to have a lot of tasks. Okay, for example, it sounds like communication might be one of them, right? Well, there's a lot of things we can do under communication. But one of your goal is communication. And then if we go back to that performance target, that's where you start doing those individual tasks to meet that goal of increasing the effective communication to our patrons. Now, you may not say you want to increase student enrollment.
But that's what it's.
But you might want to do that. That might be one of your goals. But how you do it is through communication.
Right.
In selling this great school corporation that you guys have.
And I just want to say that David has done, we've kind of been talking about communication, he has done an excellent job. He has brought us so much further.
And he's got a wonderful family. I saw it on the wall. in
Yeah,
his office.
and his videos, everything he does is
Yeah.
just really top tier. So
Video-
we have the person.
You keep a video under
I'm
1
gonna say
minute.
it's not just one person's job.
Right, I know, right. And that's
Because
what,
if Dave gets hit by the proverbial beer truck, then.
right.
But you got high school
Yeah.
kids.
Right? Yeah.
You can get your high school kids. We're taking our high school kids now. They're doing internship with my video guy. So we got like 5 kids next year that are gonna work with him to do it, because they can't do it all.
Our career center has
Yeah,
a lot of.
you rely on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're doing a big, it's called Rock the Block next Friday. We've got 40 to 50 vendors coming to our high school. We're giving away gifts. We're having, I got out of the dunk tank this year because it's not working. I've been in the dunk tank. The last 3 years, you can dunk the superintendent. And we got music playing. We're giving away free food. And all kind of stuff's going on. And my director of engagements, we're doing it, but it's a big celebration back to school. Well, I mean, it's thousands of people that show up that night. It's probably too late to do that this year, but that could be part of your plan. You want a back to school blast. And it's, how do you get your community involved? I mean, they love your community, you bring them all back. And you all the Lions Club and all the business vendors, it's really hard we really soak the vendors. We ask them to give us $25, okay? And all the vendors will come in and give things away. They've got their businesses there. We got food trucks outside. It's what I call a celebration of success. The other thing we do at the end of the year, we rent the Palladium in Carmel, and we bring in a comic, and we invite all our staff and their spouses to it. Again, you want to create have an end of the year celebration, invite everybody in, bring in music. This year, we're going to go to the Noblesville bowling alley and have competition between the buildings at the end of the year as a celebration. So we start the year with a celebration of success, and then we're going to end the year with power bowling and all our staff are excited about it. They've had 3 years of comedians, now they want to do something different. But that's all part of, building that esprit de corps and making teachers want to be here, and make them feel good. Can you bowl?
My husband bowls.
Well, there you go, bring your husband and you guys can bowl.
Her
He's a
husband-
teacher too.
Her husband's had multiple 300 games.
Ooh, that's good. But it's, you know, it's what we do. Other comments, I think I heard, that's what you do. If you're interested in doing it, I can work with Kevin, we'll get the dates.
That's
we'll get the
exactly
people.
10 words, by the way.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
When are we doing it?
Yeah. So we get going.
Engineers, what are you gonna do?
September, October, November, and early December. Okay? We can have a strategic plan done we can have the basics done by then. It can be done. But you guys have to decide your focus areas. And Kevin can help with that and the principals. And keep it simple, stupid. We've got 3. You don't need a whole lot more than that. Other comments? Any other voices?
I'll just say that, you know, I have been to, I think, I've only missed one fall conference at the ISBA. I've sat with Dr. Halleck, I've sat with other people that are in the know, and what you've said is mimicked everything they've said. This isn't brain surgery, it's just a matter of doing it. And so, we've got the people, we'll just do it.
You got the people that can do it. I've been all over your webpage,
Yep.
you know, and like you have different missions and stuff for your different departments. Your district needs to have one vision and one mission. You know, and I haven't studied that closely, but you guys have to decide that, and it's gotta be something you can remember that's simple. You know, like I said, I'm not the brightest guy in the world. I always forget our mission.
You went to Ball State.
What's that?
If you hadn't went to Ball State, you might have.
Hey, I went to Indiana State for my PhD, so,
But not IU.
That wasn't much of it.
no. You know, I took
I'm
some
an IU,
classes.
I'm an IU,
I
I
know
work
you
at
are.
IU, so
I
I'm
took
just
some
teasing.
classes at IUK, does that count?
Ish.
Hey, we're teaming with IUK on our nursing program. We're real excited about that. So, we're building a university center with 8 classrooms. So our kids, we're bringing in Indiana State, we're teaching master level MBA courses with Indiana State. IUK is gonna come down, we hope, for their nursing
I
program.
know their dean very well, so I used to work with him.
Oh, yeah, good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
IUK, yeah.
And then we're talking to Vincennes and Purdue so we can do the 2+2 in ag science. Right now, your high school ag classes that are dual credit will not transfer to Purdue for the degree. They'll transfer for a credit. But if we team with Vincennes and they're certified through Vincennes, those classes will count toward the ag science major and the ag business major at Purdue. And we're also working with Purdue with some people, hopefully with them, trying to get the Mitch Daniels MBA program taught in our university center that we're building. We're building it with the YMCA, so. Other comments for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will work with Kevin and your team. I think I'm gonna get invited back to work with your principals, and I love doing this stuff. That's what I'm gonna do when I finally retire. But you know, you guys right here, the 7 board members and Kevin are the key. You gotta work together, you gotta be on the same page. You're not always gonna agree, but you gotta work together, and it's all about kiddos and making them great. So, and you got a really good school district.